Everybody, welcome to the Wolf's Den. JB is in the house here. I'm in a new location in Miami Beach, Florida, my new home. Love it down here, guys. Gotta just tell you that all things being equal, beautiful place to live, less taxes, no mask mandates. I don't even think there's coronavirus down there. We don't even hear about it down there. But anyway, it's awesome. And I got an amazing guest today on the podcast, a very close friend of mine who's been on the podcast a while back, but's doing a whole new bunch of stuff that I kind of wanted to talk about and get his take on what's going on in the whole world of Hollywood and everywhere for that matter. I got Mr. Doug Ellin. What's up, Doug?
What's happening, Jordan? You look richer with like not paying any taxes and safer.
Richer. Unfortunately,
another shooting in Beverly Hills 2 days ago that my friends were right next door to. So it's
where
it actually does feel unsafe here. Beverly Hills, like dead center at Baldy. My ex-wife and my brother's ex-wife were at that shooting at El Paseo. They're on the news running for their life. So I there's honestly been more shootings in the dead center of Beverly Hills in the last year than in the previous 30 years combined that I've been here.
Was there any thing behind this? Was it anyone know why there was a shooting or no?
I mean, a car drove up to a guy in a Lamborghini and tried to either take his watch or his car, and I don't know what happened, but they shot him. So, he's going to be all right, I think. They shot him in the leg, but
just a flesh.
Hopefully they're aiming for the legs.
Just a flesh wound, yeah?
Yeah, exactly.
Wow. Really interesting.
Yeah.
I love Miami. I think there's something about Miami. You know what it is? Like when I'm in LA, I don't really go out that much when I'm in LA.
Yeah.
When I'm in Miami, I'm like constantly going out here. And it's just like, there's a really cool vibe and everyone's really, I don't know. It's hard to explain. We're both New Yorkers, right? So I think like every city has its own heartbeat, right? And like the heartbeat of New York is Wall Street. The heartbeat of Los Angeles is the movie industry. And the heartbeat of Miami is partying. I don't know. It's like I think they're trying to make it crypto, but it's just Miami's just like this really
it's like the Wild West, Miami.
A little bit, right? It's like almost all the modern luxuries, but like from a bygone era with a little bit of the attitude,
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's a great town.
So let me just start off by saying I heard you got banned on Instagram.
Yeah, I got suspended on Instagram.
Suspended. What happened?
Yeah, and it's like tough to get into these things because obviously, if someone prints words in black and white, they suddenly sound bad. But I respond to people all the time, and I get, I'm sure you do too. I get a lot of haters, and I respond in kind. And,
you're not getting hate. You're not doing something right.
But I, part of my shtick is to respond to them, and some of them, they like it. They're like, I go, you're a loser, you whatever, you're ugly, whatever, and they respond. And sometimes they're like, I was just trying to get a rise out of you, but. The first warning I got was, my music supervisor, Scott Venner, who did all the music for Entourage. I told him I would beat him with my phone in pickleball. I didn't need a paddle because that's how bad I thought he was, that I could beat him with my phone. And all of a sudden a warning came up that I was flagged for threats. So obviously they have some algorithm that acted like I was going to beat him.
Yeah, you meant beat him using your phone as the paddle, meaning like you could hit the ball with the little phone. And I've seen you play pickleball. You probably could beat him with the telephone, I believe.
I believe I could. So,
well, didn't you get that? Well, didn't that get corrected didn't you appeal that and won, obviously, right?
There was no appeal. I got a warning that said stop, which I've gotten a few warnings because what I do is people, and I'm not exaggerating, people will write me things like you're a dirty Jew, burn in an oven. And I'll repost it and I'll go look at this animal that I have to deal with. And then people will do whatever they do. So someone else wrote something nasty to me and I said, which I don't even look at their page. It's shtick. I said, I looked at your page. Your girlfriend's ugly. You're a fucking loser, blah, 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 blah. All of a sudden, my thing just starts spinning. I violated guidelines. They cut me off. And, it's aggravating because we know how much crap is on Instagram, from death threats that I see daily to absolute racism, anti-Semitism, and everything else. So I've never gone after everybody. I've just responded to people who've said something to me. And again, I haven't responded that harshly, though I wouldn't want to read it in black and white because it takes away my tone and my context, And the same thing happened, you were asking me before we got on, this thing with billions, which I said on our podcast, Hollywood Ways, very simple story. There's nothing to talk about. I hired the guys who created Billions to write a hedge fund show for HBO that we sold. I then introduced those guys to Andrew Ross Sorkin and said, we should do a different show after HBO's show after HBO passed on that show. And then they made billions. I didn't say I wanted anything. I didn't say I was suing anybody. I just said that's what happened. You can judge for yourself what that is. As I know, and you know, that's what a producer does. He comes up with an idea, he pairs people together, and decent human beings usually make sure that, you know, they are treated properly. But I was not in that case. Again, I don't want a goddamn thing from it, and I've never even seen Billions. I'm sure it's great because I hired those guys because I thought they were good writers. But
so it's interesting. It's I have a really another take on the whole Billions thing is that it's the guys from Long Island, right? It's what's his name?
Koppelman and Levine. Yeah,
right. So they've actually met this and they admitted it to me. Like you, they are in the same. They're Doug Ellin-esque in this particular instance. I met with them in 2007. They read my book. I met with them in person. They said, this just can't be a movie. I just don't see this being a movie. Like, I don't think anyone could make this into a movie that people will really want to go see. And you thought the same thing. Like those guys, Koppelman and Levin, they said, we love the book. It's great. We love you. It's nothing personal. Like, you know, we think you're great, but it was they were nice about it. It's like, I don't think it's like people would, you know, and you thought the same thing. And obviously, you know, Scorsese, I think it's the brilliance of a Scorsese and DiCaprio that they kind of looked to it as a comedy, almost a dark comedy, and found that, which is, by the way, your edge anyway, but I guess that you just will look at it from a different perspective. But then they ran to me many years later and said, you know, the biggest miss we had was when we read The Wolf of Wall Street in 2007. We just missed the boat in that one, you know? So
yeah, I mean, I think it's funny when people say they missed the boat, you know? It's like when you get Leo and you get Scorsese, it wasn't going to be the same boat if they wrote it or if I wrote it.
There you go, right?
Obviously, you know how close I am to you and how close I have been to that world. And unfortunately for me, I was not able to see the comedy in it, even though I know how much we laugh and always when we talk about these stories. But what Terry Winter did and what Leo did and what Scorsese did is they created one of the funniest movies of all time. And I did not read the book. Of course, I thought it was funny, but I was like, people will walk out of the theater, they will throw things at you. But little did I know that you're actually not that edgy, and Entourage was the real disgrace to modern male, you know, supremacy. So,
I think you know what it is. I'll tell you what. I think you bring up a valid point. Like, you know, it's not the same boat with DiCaprio and Scorsese. You know, and I think that obviously, yeah, there's the brilliance of Scorsese, and you can't argue with that. Like, he just did an amazing job. But also, I think there's the problem, I think, in Hollywood right now is like that everyone is so scared to like sort of go outside the socially correct mold that like I can't find anything to fucking watch anymore. I'm going back and I'm watching fucking Entourage. I'm watching fucking Entourage for the 19th time. Honestly, I can't take it anymore. I know every word of every fucking episode. I've watched the pilot at least 27 times. Okay, I know exactly when that fucking song is going to come on at the end when he goes to his first premiere. And dude, you know, it's like it's sad. It really is.
I appreciate that, but you know what the show to watch is, and I hope you watch it and like it. Succession, which really, like Mad Men, was kind of, in my opinion, and I'm not trying to compare myself to anybody, but like a sophisticated, dramatic Entourage. Succession is genius and is also so not politically correct. And I am just like, why? And again, I love it. It's my favorite show. I wish, again, like I say, oh, why did I come up with that? Because I'm probably not that good that I'm going to write an hour drama. I was good at writing what I knew and growing up with the guys that I grew up with and whatever. But Succession is like, they don't ask Brian Cox every day why he is talking like this.
I'll tell you why.
He's a character.
I'll tell you why.
Yeah.
I think the reason why, and I think you got it backwards. You created characters that was so relatable and so real that people became uncomfortable because they were everybody that you knew. And the show was so on point in a way, even though it became like all shows eventually become a character of themselves because the characters start like they have to say what they always say. But
yeah,
characters was so real that people take offense because they can look it's like a mirror. When you look at Succession, it's so over the top. and
Right.
it's people that they can't relate to. So I
Right.
think, and Billions is someone like that too, in the sense that, come on, there's not a lot of Steve Cohns out there. You know what I'm saying? If I think it
Right.
was modeled after, right? I know there's a lot of wolfish stuff in there. I laugh a lot, I see a lot of wolf stuff in there, but everyone does that with, everyone borrows from everybody else. So I don't think there's anything bad about it, but I think that you hit a chord because those are people who are real people, in the sense that everyone knows an E, everyone knows a turtle, everyone knows it.
Right.
You know what I mean? And so it's too close to home.
Right. No, it's an interesting take. I saw Wolf with you right before Entourage movie was coming out, because I was a little concerned that Entourage movie might get, it's too vulgar, it's too this and that. And when I saw Wolf, I'm like, oh, we're fine. But as you said, different things get looked at in different ways. I think Wolf of Wall Street, which just so we can be crystal clear, it's one of my favorite movies. It's one of the funniest things I've ever seen. I could watch the Quaalude scene, which I'd heard for 30 years prior to seeing it 100 times, and I've never laughed so hard. So, but I think it's, one of the things you said is where people say that all the time, like, oh, I missed it, I could have done that. No, just because you gave me the book does not mean if I said, Jordan, I'm going to direct this movie, that it would have been even close to what they did, because what they did was genius. And you never know any writer that's going to come in on anything. You don't know how it's going to be. Now, true. Obviously, you were very involved in that, but
I think what you're saying basically is that, you got essentially labeled as a misogynist or some way, or for Entourage, right? Is that the story in some way?
I mean, I hate to look back at it, because when we say there's labels, there's this real small group of loud, obnoxious motherfuckers who want to try to take down things, rewrite history, and do everything else. And I want to be really clear. I'm more liberal than I am right, but I'm really rational, and both sides are fucking raving lunatics. And what I'm dealing with on a constant basis is articles come out still, we've been off the air for 10 years. I'm minding my own business. I do a nice, quiet podcast. We barely curse on it. And articles come out that say these things let's revisit how awful this show was. And I don't mean content-wise. If you didn't find it entertaining, that's your prerogative. But when people start talking about the misogyny, the homophobia in it, this, I'm like, what are you talking about? It was President Obama's favorite show. It was the New York Times said it was the best show on TV and the smartest show on TV. So it's really scary to watch revisionist history and what they will decide to revise, and who gets those passes,
What do you think is at the heart of it? I think we've had this conversation before, but is anything in your mind become more clear in the last couple of years? What is driving this sort of rush to rewrite? It's true, to rewrite history. It's almost very Orwellian. Where certain words are no longer considered acceptable, and thought crimes, if you even think a certain way, that you're considered to be a bad or evil person. What do you think is at the heart of it?
Well, cancel culture is not new. And Andrew Dice Clay, who's a good friend of mine, who was the biggest comedian on the planet Earth in 1987, there was a concerted effort to stop him from doing what he was doing then. And I mean, they took a movie that was going to be a giant release, and they took it out after he cursed or whatever he said at the MTV Awards. And me, as knowing Andrew Dice Clay as a really nice, kind, good human being, I know what he does on stage is performance. And when you're doing stand-up comedy, some people just go, oh, that's his personal viewpoints on the world, as opposed to he's making jokes. And I think what's happened now is it's not much different, but we all know that social media is so instantaneous, and the ability to try to drum up a crowd that can come after people, bully people, and tell people what they should think and what they should say, that's where the real scary thing is right now. And I think that's the biggest difference, because there were always people that were offended by everything. And actually on Hollywood Ways, I'm doing it with, her name's Breezy. She's a rapper who's on All American on the CW, and she was on Empire. And we talked about things and she's also gay. And we talked about the Chappelle comedy special and things like that. There were always offensive things going on in comedy. When Eddie Murphy was doing Delirious and Raw 30 years ago, he was saying things that if you looked at now, you go, what the hell? But comedy pushes boundaries, and comedy, to be funny, needs to do that. And if you're offended, which is why I said I haven't seen the Chappelle Show yet, so I'm not commenting specifically.
I haven't seen it either, by the way, yeah.
So I'm not commenting specifically on his material. I do know everything I've seen of him up till now is he's a genius, and he understands the line between real offense and real intent to hurt somebody. Now, if he went too far, I'm not going to speak about that. But what I said was there's no way they should pull that off the air. People should be able to watch it, determine what they think. And, like while Squid Games is on the air, which I don't know if you've watched that, where a person, which is clearly geared to children, and a person is murdered almost every 35 seconds. And really, people are more upset about words than crimes, than watching violence. That's what is really bothersome. But I think you say what's behind it. Of course, there are good people that want to make a difference in the world. And there are things that need to be done. And there's social justice reforms that need to happen. But there's also people who are after their own powers, who are just trying to find ways that they can build up whatever it is that they want and that they have. And that's why I always say, because I've got these camps of friends who are like, oh, Tucker Carlson's the greatest, or Don Lemon's the greatest. And to me, both of them are basically, they're storytellers, and they are creating narratives, and they are spreading disinformation on both sides to everybody that is making everybody who's not capable of tucking their emotions down a little bit and going, what actually am I looking at? They're making everybody hate each other's fucking guts. So it's really scary. I've never seen anything like this, where good friends of mine who I'm not even on a real side. I really am about good people should have a good chance to do things and whatever. But I am watching people get fired up over shit that they don't even necessarily understand because they're being fed it on a daily basis,
I think the danger, even more than a Tucker Carlson, is that Tucker Carlson at least says he's a pundit. He's not an actual news reporter. In other words, I think that the problem, to me, the bigger problem than a Tucker Carlson is when someone that's supposed to be an actual journalist is spewing a liberal or conservative viewpoint, and they're supposed to be independent. Like Tucker Carlson makes no, I'm not defending him, I'm just saying, but I'm defending the practice that, if you have someone like a Rachel Maddow, like she makes no bones about it. I am a liberal pundit. This is my views. It's my opinion. It's opinion and candidate, opinion based. Watch it or don't watch it, which is to me is far less dangerous than the mainstream media secretly being ultra left-wing liberal and skewing things to that reality versus going straight down the middle, because we look at those people supposed to be arbiters of truth or just telling it like it is, versus Tucker. When I watch Tucker Carlson, I know it's a fucking show. Like that's me.
It's a comedy show.
Yeah, or it's just simply it's one man's very conservative opinion. And I'm not saying I agree with everything he says. Some things I agree with, some things I don't agree with.
Yeah.
But what I hate more than anything are not the Rachel Maddows or the Tucker Carlsons. Those fucking newscasters that are actually trying to say they're independent or down when they're not. You know what I'm saying?
I do. And I'm not even, by the way, I'm not even saying that CNN or Fox should somehow be banned or should be like this. People, just like with art, which I do think Tucker Carlson is almost doing a comedy show, and I'm not smart enough to debate how much damage in the real world is happening or not. That's for CNN is going to say all the damage they're doing on that side, and Fox is going to say all the damage that CNN is doing on that side, and then a whole bunch of people are going to say how much damage movies are doing to people. We know. Look, the reality is The Wolf of Wall Street and Entourage, they've encouraged some male behavior that some people might not find okay. But the fact of the matter is, intelligent human beings in a free society have to be able to look at that stuff, and normal people go, you know what? I don't think what I want to do is go to my office today and throw a little person up against the wall. But some people might take that and go, you know what? Jordan Belfort gave me a great idea today when I saw the movie. And that's what a free society is about. And unfortunately, bad things happen, but I believe it's usually because there's bad people. But the problem now is, which I don't have an answer for, is people are getting sucked into whatever they want to watch, and they're watching it as absolute and total fact. And they're not taking time to be nuanced and look at both sides of everything. And, me, unfortunately, my Instagram is now banned, but I was always like, I was getting killed from everybody. And again, I don't have a big following. I'm not trying to make myself out to be bigger.
Is it banned, suspended or banned permanently?
I believe it's gone, they said, apparently. I mean, I got to try to find someone higher up because I've seen people I know threaten to kill people on Instagram, get suspended, and they're back. I didn't threaten to kill anybody. I didn't say anything that bad, but unfortunately, I'm gone. But as you know, though, I would post things about Democrats who were saying stupid shit and about Republicans who were saying stupid shit. I've never been like, I'm on this side and there's no room for error. So I think everybody, and again, like, I don't know if we're teaching anybody anything here either, but everybody's got to just be rational and look at what is happening in reality as opposed to some made up fantasy of what's going on,
What do you think? Well, speaking of this whole, what do you think about, this whole notion that, big tech has just got way too much power right now. These platforms, it's out of control. I mean, they're controlling it's like the modern day highways and byways that you travel down right now. And you have a few companies that control all that, and they can just totally essentially decide who gets to travel, who doesn't. What do you think about that?
I mean, it's such a tough thing because, again, I believe they're private companies. And, Republicans would normally want to keep government out of that. But the fact is what they're doing is not even-handed. They're letting people like ISIS have accounts, and they're stopping people like me from having an account. So that's where it's very hard to know how to regulate it because whoever's making the law at the time is going to be skewing it towards themselves. But I just believe, very simply, if Instagram wants to say you're not allowed to curse, you're not allowed to ever threaten anybody, even if it's sarcastic. Okay, just make it even-handed and make it clear for everybody what the rules are. I've gotten a bunch of those warning things and I've ignored them because the shit that I've gotten. I mean, I tracked down a kid who literally wrote to me that I should burn in an oven, and I posted it and I said, anyone know this motherfucker? And I found them because I had mutual friends, and I actually called his work and I spoke to his boss and I said, look, I don't want to get this kid fired, but I want you to know you got a major problem on your hand, that this is what he does at 3:00 in the morning is wake up and spew anti-Semitic bullshit. And this kid actually DM'd me and said, is there any way I can get on the phone with you? I called him up and he got on. He said, listen, I'm apologizing. I do not remember this. I'm a blackout drunk and I did this. And I said to him, I go, look, you really need some help, and you really need to understand why, even when you're drunk, is you attacking someone because of their religion or their race. Like, why would that come out? But, it's...
And how did it end with the kid? Did you accept his apology and that was that?
I accepted his apology, but I did give it to him clearly. I said, you need to understand that those type of words are coming from something so deep and so hateful. But, they're words, and I hope your actions will hopefully make your life better as you go forward,
What do you think about the podcast space in terms of, how crowded it's becoming? You have a very successful podcast. Do you think that that this proliferation is a good thing, or is it, again, giving everybody a voice? So almost there's so many voices right now that you can't even know which ones you should listen to, which ones you shouldn't. Like, how do you make sense of the noise at this point in podcasts?
Well, I think, look, we used to say that about cable when we were growing up. Like, oh my God, look at all these channels with all this shit on it. The cream's going to rise to the top. And, of course, I think it's a good thing that everybody has a voice. I don't think people should decide who gets to talk. And if they can get their word out, they'll get their word out. And we've seen many people who we had no idea had talents who've made it over the last 10 years because of social media and because of the access to this. And I think that's a great thing. There's nothing I could say that's bad about that. So,
do you think we're still in the early stages of this, whole, it's really a paradigm shift in communication? Because right now, for me, I very, very seldom listen to podcasts. And the reason why is because I just find it so difficult to find good ones. In other words, it's like it's not a clear way of how do you know, and I tried the whole, what's the top 10 of Apple, and I just found that to be ridiculous. Like the ones that were at the top, I thought were really, I can't believe that was the best they have to offer. It seemed like they were skewed into certain categories.
Yeah, but who knows? Like, who knows how they're controlling, how they're coming out with that list anyway? Yeah. Everyone should check out Victory, the podcast, by the way, if you like hearing good fun dialogue.
No, so let's talk about Victory, the podcast. So Victory, how long have you been doing the podcast for?
We've done it about 15, 16 months, I think.
And
we started.
How much? I mean, how dramatically has the listenership grown over these 15 months?
I mean, I think we just hit over 7 million downloads, and our first episode did like 4,000 downloads. So we've grown exponentially, and that's with no promotion. We don't spend any money on this thing, and we don't do anything except for use our Instagram. I don't have one, but we use our Instagrams to try to get the word out. But word of mouth is spread, and that's why I say, quality stuff will find its way. And I think a lot of podcasts are like, Jordan, now, me and you, I got you on Clubhouse early and we thought, oh, this could be something. And then you realized, God, I get on this thing and I'm listening to a bunch of nobody jerk-offs pretending they're this or that, which again, if they have something interesting to say, it doesn't matter, but they really didn't. So I think the idea of the podcast, for me, I found like 4 to 6 that I really enjoy and I get something out of. So when I work out or I get in the car, I know what I'm going to. I don't spend a lot of, if you start browsing, you're going to go into a rabbit hole of hell.
That's what happened when I did it a couple of times. Like, this was a waste of time. I couldn't find something that I just really, it was like, there was no clear way where there was like ratings, I don't know, some sort of rating system with these things that really would allow you to quickly find ones that you're probably going to enjoy, Like Netflix is pretty good at that. Netflix does a pretty good job of giving you stuff that you're probably going to enjoy. There's nothing like that with podcasts.
Yeah, but Netflix knows if you watch Squid Games, they know you might like watch another thing where they kill a lot of people. You know what I mean? So it's like they find ways to get you in, and that's that's good. And I don't know how Apple will do that. There's like 4 million podcasts, I think, on Apple Podcasts. Something crazy like that.
What do you think about Squid Game? So what are your thoughts on that? Like I thought it was just okay, by the way. I don't honestly know what is so great about Squid Game. I watched it. I missed a few of the middle ones because I kind of just drifted in and out of it because down to be like when you were doing the whole thing with taking the people's organs. I was like, I don't care about that stuff, right?
My feeling on it is that, like, there's two different things. Great idea, mediocre execution. I think it's kind of bad dialogue. It's it doesn't excite me, and I really do feel like it's a show. And again, I'm not asking anybody to ban anything. It feels like a show that's geared to children. The music, the colors of it, the feel of it, and even the violence of it, to me, feels cartoony rather than like ultra real. So that's the only problem I have with it, that I feel like it's a show geared to children. And one of my best friends, his son tried to make those sugar cookies like a 10-year-old, and I'm not blaming Netflix. I'm just saying that's what he was watching, and obviously maybe his parents should have stopped him from watching that. But I don't think people really understood what it was. They saw the beginning of it, and it seemed like this kid show, and then obviously they start killing people. But I just think there should be clear ratings that tell people this is not for you. But it was a show that I could pass the time with.
What's the difference between the podcast you have, the Victory podcast, and Hollywood Ways with Breezy?
So Victory is 30 years, 20 years relationships. The behind the scenes of Entourage, and I don't mean the making of the show, the behind the scenes friendships of that show is what we deal with on Victory. So we talk about Entourage, but we talk about everything else in our lives, our careers, our friendships, et cetera, et cetera. So it's really a hang with your friends, Hollywood Ways is, Breezy, my co-host, is a 34-year-old African-American lesbian and has a very different perspective on life, on career, on everything. So we look at different things. Like we're going to look at, and we're going to get you on, we're going to look at Wolf of Wall Street and talk about it from her perspective and from my perspective and how we see it. That being said, I have a really great vibe with her, so it's entertaining and fun as well. But we talk about food places we like to go to, how to help people get an agent if they want to start writing, little tips on that too. But hopefully we do it in an entertaining way.
So what do you notice so far? How long have you been doing with her for? How many episodes?
5.
So what do you notice is like the fun? It's really interesting because you say that, like that she's, you said she's a 34-year-old African-American lesbian, and that by itself will create, obviously different viewpoints. You have different worlds. You grew up in different experiences, right? What are the things that you notice most about her viewpoints versus yours? Are there sort of these underlying currents and themes that keep repeating themselves, or no?
No, what I realize, and it doesn't make it less interesting because we're not conflicting, is that we are on the same page on so many things. And I feel like we have a kindred spirit. And we are two both rational people who do want the world to be better and the world to be more inclusive and fair. But we also understand that there's a lot of stuff happening that is completely counterproductive to that. So, it's really, she's a very smart woman with a great POV, and it's been fun so far, and we're really just getting going and growing it. So I'm feeling good about it.
All right, when it comes to gambling, you always want to make sure that you're getting the best bang for the buck. And that's why I always bet with MyBookie. Listen, at MyBookie, you can bet on all your favorite sports with exclusive promotions, contests, and more to find your winning bet. Now, right now, when you make your first deposit at MyBookie, you'll instantly receive double, that's right, double your first deposit. It's easy. All you have to do is go to mybookie.ag. That's mybookie.ag. You sign up. Use my promo code Belfort, that's capital Belfort, and MyBookie will double your first deposit instantly up to $1,000. How's that for some fast money? This promotion is only available for a limited time, so don't miss out, please. You want to do this. Click on the link below and use my promo code. Again, that's capital Belfort, Belfort, to secure your double deposit bonus today. All right, want to grow your business, diversify your content? You're not going to find a better tool out there than Melon for your live streaming needs. Blazing fast response time, low CPU usage, all available right in your browser. Go to melonapp.com/wolf and start streaming today. Hey guys, today I want to tell you about United Recovery Project. Listen, United Recovery Project is a unique and intensive program for individuals who are seeking help for their substance addiction. They work with most major health insurance plans and providers to help cover the costs of your addiction treatment. So if you or one of your loved ones is suffering from substance addiction, please reach out to United Recovery Project for a free and confidential evaluation. Help is right around the corner. They also created an amazing podcast called Hell Has an Exit that shares the crazy, beautiful, raw, and vulnerable stories from individuals who've come back from battling substance abuse, addiction, gangs, even survival stories from the Holocaust. Make sure to subscribe to Hell Has an Exit podcast on your favorite podcast player, and be sure to check out their episode with me to hear amazing stories that I don't share anywhere else. You can't miss it. The Hell Has an Exit podcast by United Recovery Project is a can't miss. Make sure to let them know in the comments that JB sent you. It's interesting. So I had last night I went to a charity event in Miami for kids from Haiti, right, and help give them education, art materials. And I spoke at the event very quickly. I was like just asked to come in at the end and auction some stuff off, right? And I did, and it was because my wife, right, Christina, she was organizing it with some people down here, and she was going to speak. So she wanted to, she didn't know about Martin Luther King. She knew who he was vaguely, but she grew up in Argentina, so it's just sort of, she was aware but not really, didn't know the whole story. And like when she mentioned him and I started reciting dialogue from his famous speeches, I'm like, of course, I know everything about Martin Luther King. We grew up with him, and to me, he's an amazing, incredible figure, like a Mandela type, right? Peaceful and just, instigated so much change. And so she goes, well, can we watch a movie? So we watched Selma. We watched the movie Selma. And it's like, it's fucking shocking. Like when you watch that movie and you realize this was only like 40 or 50 years ago in the United States, it's fucking shocking.
Yeah. I mean,
it's really shocking, by the way. No, like to your core. It's almost like, and because we grew up in it wasn't like that. We grew up in the most liberal New York, right? No prejudice. I know no prejudice in my household ever. Furthest thing in my house, that was the last thing. in my household, right? And when I saw that, I was like, holy fucking shit. And then you start to understand some of the righteous wrath, but then also, of course, for people to go and loot and burn and riot, in 2021, obviously 2020 doesn't really, it doesn't justify that, but it's fucking shocking, really. What do you feel when you watch that stuff?
Well, I mean, what I find shocking, we're talking about the media as if something has changed. There always has been gatekeepers in the media, in the entertainment industry, and that's why I think all the walls are coming down, and it's good that everybody is going to be able to speak. Now, is it possibly going to be the downfall of humanity? It may very well be, and I'm serious, because it actually feels the worst it ever been. But people say now, oh, the left-wing media controls this, they do that. But I was a history major, and I never knew about the Tulsa massacres until I saw Watchmen on HBO, and I'm embarrassed to say that. And I never knew about this Harlem Woodstock that Questlove did in the documentary. I'm blanking on the name of it now. I never knew about that, and those are some of my favorite musicians. Stevie Wonder playing in Harlem at the same time that Woodstock is happening, and nobody's ever talked about it, even though there were 100,000 people there. So there have been people, power structures that control who gets to hear what and what type of messages are going to be out. And that's always been a scary thing. And I think we're still living in the same thing. Humans, in my opinion, they're just bad for the most part. And people with power will try to keep it at all costs. And then there are those whose mission in life is to try to make things better. And I think what's important for everybody is to realize it really is hard to change the world, but you can change a lot of what's around you, and you can change how you are with your family, and you can change how you are with your friends, and you can do like a charity event that you were doing last night. But I think everybody now thinks they can move the needle so hard, and it has moved incredibly far since that time from Selma. But it's still, of course, there are unfair things. But me personally, I think the central problem in this country is financial inequality. I don't think race was the biggest problem in this country in 2021. I think it's actually getting worse because it feels like everybody is trying to separate us and segregate us. But I think financially is the real problem, and I have absolutely no idea how to solve that problem. But I think that's the real problem.
There's a really funny little meme going around on TikTok right now where it's a black guy and he points up to it. It says average white family net worth in 2021, 117,000. And then it says average black family net worth, $17,000, right? And then he's saying, like in a really gruff anger, that's like, tell me this, like, right? And then it flashes to a white guy, kind of white trash, saying, honey, guess what? We're black. Like he's like, I think this is a really important point. In other words, because you're bringing up a very important point. Like racism is real. It is fucking real. It just is. It's sad. I think, and it's like very hard for people like you and I who are not racist to almost. It's hard to wrap your arms around it because we grew up in the North. We grew up in an area that was just not like that. But there really are areas. But what's happened is I think there's this other side of it, which is this huge income gap that's for like a lot of white people too. It's like I think that 117 is skewed by some very, very, very wealthy people, a top 1% wealthy, right? And I think there's so much inequality there. Black, white, Hispanic, and I think you're right. It's an equally massive problem. But when you do go back, but it is very sobering. I will tell you, it is fucking sobering when you go back and watch like what happened in the 60s. I'm like, holy fuck.
Well, listen, the reality is, and listen, Jews have dealt with their own stuff. But the reality is where I grew up in Long Island. You grew up Staten Island, correct? Queens. Okay, so where I grew up in Long Island, there were legitimately things that were done to make sure that black people could not own homes.
Right.
So obviously, my parents were able to buy a house that would ultimately grow in wealth, that was able to help their children. So of course, it's incredibly unfair. The question is what do you do about it today? And again, like I said, I don't have the answers for it. I'm up for trying to help everybody. But what we know is the best thing anyone can do in life is try to move forward and figure out how to make the best of today and tomorrow. And I just feel like everything now is about how we can rectify things of the past that a lot of us had nothing to do with,
right?
And
I think what you're talking about is something, it crosses over into victim mentality. And that's where I start to depart and say, no, I'm sorry. Because, like there's two ways, no matter how unfair something might be, as soon as you start making yourself a victim, you give up your power. Then you're actually buying into it, and you're saying it's not within my power to make a change myself, that I'm a creature of circumstance. It's people are doing things to me. My life is happening to me. I'm not creating my own life. It's probably the most disempowering belief a human being can have is the world happens to me. I don't have agency to make change. So, despite all these things that are unfair, because there are things that are unfair, and if you want to really, find unfair, go to a different fucking country outside the United States, then you'll find unfair. When I go to countries like my wife's from Argentina, there's just no fucking opportunity. It doesn't exist. You go to Mexico, there's no it's really, and Mexico's much better than Argentina, but there is very limited opportunity. You go to all over these countries around the world, and there is no opportunity. So it's almost like, why is the US dollar the reserve currency when it's, being debased on a daily basis and money's being printed? Because it's the best bad option. So, the US might have its flaws or fucked up, but we're the best bad option. I never found any other system out there that elevates people out of poverty like the United States, except maybe China has been very successful at elevating people out of poverty as well. But you're giving up all your civil rights. But that's another system because it's also capitalist. It's capitalism with no freedom of speech. It's a kind of powerful economic combination. But, I think that, to me, I think what you're pointing to is this sort of victim mentality where you start blaming everything else and not taking responsibility for your life.
Yeah, but by the way, I don't even want to say that I'm saying that about people that are feeling like there is inequality. I'm saying that about the people that are trying to get on board of all these causes instead of saying, what can we do today, right now, to make things better? We waste so much time when there are people really struggling and starving with, in my opinion, nonsense and garbage. And I really am, like I said, I want social justice for everyone. I want every interaction with a police officer to be amazing. But the fact of the matter is, we know cops are human beings and they wake up just like we do. They're in a good mood, they're in a bad mood, whatever. And, when bad things happen, they can escalate quickly. So I'm just hoping that everyone can try to get the message out to everybody that we all need to take a fucking breather and take a minute, because I really do feel like we're destroying this country now. And I don't mean because somehow this will get quoted that I'm saying that white people have no power, which, by the way, Jordan, we're not white people. We're Jewish people. And I always learned from Howard Stern that Daniel Carver thought the Jews were the lowest of the low. We were below every other group. So most people don't consider us white anyway. But I'm saying that, everybody's just got to do their part in looking at themselves and how they can improve their own lives, their own communities, and everything else.
I guess my point I was making before, because I agree with what you're saying. I think my point is that there are massive inequalities. There is unfairness everywhere. There's decks that are stacked against certain types of people. All of that stuff exists. The question is, are you going to allow that to become your narrative? You would allow that to become the story of your life about why you don't have what you want, versus saying, fair enough, I'm going to just have to work harder, smarter, and be a bit more ingenious, because what else am I going to do? Am I going to complain, yell, and scream? And you can do that too, by the way, in a healthy way to make change. But we live once, and every day that you're busy complaining and blaming and not doing something to improve your own life is a day wasted on this earth, And,
absolutely.
And I started over at the age of 40. What was I? I was 42, 43 when I got out of jail. I was broke, a convicted felon, where it's very difficult to get a job. And I'm not saying I'm the average person, because I'm not. Okay, I have certain skill sets that allowed me to come back very quickly and make money. But still, I had nothing. But I just, for me, the thought that I would say, oh, my past somehow equals my future, or because I did this, I now can't do that. And I don't think these things are mutually exclusive. I think, yes, there's massive unfairness, inequality. Okay, so, and you change that, but you have to, in your own life, take control of your life, make the best of whatever bad situation. You can always move forward and make progress. And I believe for most people that are at least healthy and have mental faculties, you can make, in this country, a lot of fucking money too. That's my belief.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. But, again, the government, unfortunately, I think all decent people would like everybody to have a fair shot. But the government has proven over and over and over that they don't know how to fix that. And the more that we allow them to take over systems and try to help everybody, the more that gets stolen, just like Afghanistan the last 20 years. And that's not Republican or Democrats. That was both administrations lying to us, wasting all of our money that probably could have pulled everybody who's in poverty out of poverty if we didn't do that. But that's how it goes.
President. Our president is senile. Forget Democrat or Republican. We have a senile president. Like, what does that say about our country? Like, seriously, forget Donald Trump or Hillary. Forget that. We have a president who's obviously not all there. And the fact that this is, I'm not thrilled with anything that's going on with politics, but if Trump was all there, we're in trouble also. Both of them, the fact that these were our two best candidates is really... Trump. I'm just saying, forget Trump. I'm saying we have a president.
It's really sad.
It's so like, and I think the product is this. So to me, it seems really obvious what happened. It's almost like a bad movie. It's like the movie Dave. Where can we find someone so dim-witted, who's so simple, who's so manipulatable, so easy to control? Where can we... And they found someone who was like just a patsy for the establishment. So all he recommends is a placeholder who's not Trump, but it's someone who's not in control in any way, who's not making policy, who's not inspiring people, he's not solving problems. Okay, so there's nothing to do with Republicans. It has to do with the fact that the system that we have right now has either scared away any really solid, amazing people from wanting to run for office, or the establishment is so corrupt and is so intent on protecting itself, they will not allow anyone that is not towing the exact party line of whatever deep state on either side that you want to, the institution, they won't let anybody even get a shot at it. So what you find is someone like a Biden who was never a genius when he was in his 40s, who now is completely senile in his 80s. He can't go, how old is he, 79, 80? He can't tie his fucking choices, the guy. It's insane. So, like, I look at this, to me, that's such a huge problem by these politics. It's such a huge fucking problem that no one wants to run for office because the press will destroy you. The other side will destroy you. Everyone will hate on you. The government will investigate you. What do you do? How does this end?
As I said earlier, I wasn't smart enough to figure out how to make the wolf into what Marty and you did, and I'm not smart enough to solve this system. What I do feel is what you said earlier. We have the best system on the planet. I'm really not sure it's going to last. I think now what's happened, you didn't used to get generational wealth by becoming the president of the United States. That was not usually like the thing, when Jimmy Carter was running. And now all of these guys, Andrew Cuomo is writing books in the middle of a pandemic about what a fucking hero he is. And Gates is, I don't even know what's happening. I don't mean Bill Gates. Matt Gates, I don't know. I read he was going to jail for 100 years a year ago, and now I see him on TV every day making policy. So I have no idea what is happening in the world.
So crazy. I know. It's like honestly, it's like the last days of a falling empire.
It really does feel like that.
That's what it feels like.
And the truth is, it's like they can't go after these politicians because the fact is people are going to vote. So whatever Donald Trump may have done or did not do, or Biden or his son may have done or did not do, people are going to vote for one of the two of them because those are the only options. But then those same people are going to come after little schmucks like us who wrote a TV show that they were trying to entertain people with, and they're going to start spending their time trying to stop them because they can't stop the system that is moving. And I don't know what.
Yeah, I get it. Here's a problem though I have. Like who gives a fuck what Hunter Biden did? Like, why does that even matter? Like, why go after? Like, this is what bothers me. Like about the Republicans. I'm like, who gives a fuck about? Okay, so the guy's a loser. He was a drug addict. Maybe he's a nice guy. I don't know him. Okay, but like, you know, like they're making it as if that Hunter Biden is going to be the downfall or security. Come on, it's just, you know, that's an example of the Republican machine. Like, this,
but that's what they do.
Politics. No one.
That's what they do. They don't want to talk about the real issues and how we're going to solve what they are. So they distract us on both sides with stories about all of this stuff all day and all night.
So no one runs. No one wants to
trying to figure it out. Like, I don't understand. And I'm not saying I know anything or not, but like, did Cuomo kill all these old people in senior homes or not? And if he did, why wasn't he A, out of office earlier, and B, in jail? I mean, I just don't get it. So, and then they just disappear, and then they move on to somebody else who's possibly even worse than in policy wise. So it's a really scary system. And you know what, Jordan, we have our obligations. I'm supposed to try to entertain people. I'm not going to change the world. I'm not going to solve politics. Hopefully, when I do a TV show or when I do a podcast, hopefully I can keep somebody in their house instead of going out and doing something bad, getting in a fight with somebody or whatever else it is. Because that's what it feels like on a daily and constant basis right now, that everything is just waiting for a fight to happen over nothing, you know?
What do you think about cryptocurrency?
I am not smart enough to know. You know, I call you. I'm like, Jordan, help me make some fucking money with this. I think I'm a moron because I swore I was going to buy some Bitcoin if it hit like 30,000, which was, it did again, like what, a month ago, 2 months ago. And I, of course, sat there and said, this is garbage. I don't know enough about stuff like that to even speak about it.
The reason the reason I bring it up is because not that I'm asking you, like, you know, what do you think is going higher or lower? Socially, it's almost like as I was saying the phrase, it's like the last great days of a falling empire, right? It's almost like Bitcoin is a symptom of that. Like, it's like that the United States is allowing for another currency, another store of value outside the dollar, which is a reserve currency of the world, which affords us so many benefits as a society. You know, because the dollar is the global reserve currency, it allows us to live this insanely opulent life that all Americans, even the poorest ones, comparatively to the poor comparison to other countries, we live so much better because we can keep printing money because everything is priced in dollars when it comes to global trade. And it interests me, what fascinates me, that the United States would not just insane like China is doing. China says, no, crypto is illegal because it's not in the interest of the Chinese government, and it's not in the interest of the U.S. government. I wonder, because I was a bear in crypto for many, many years, strictly because of the U.S. government. I always loved the idea of crypto and blockchain, but I was like, I can't see how the U.S. government's not going to clamp this shit down, but they didn't. And I wonder why.
I think what we're seeing in this country, that anything that people don't want to be stopped, they make it about freedom. And there's such a movement to keep that I'm watching like Hollywood turned on its head. Middlemans, agencies that used to run the world are becoming irrelevant. Studios, that may happen to where you can make your own products like we're doing right now.
Stop. Explain that to me.
Yeah.
What do you mean by that? Like, explain that. Studios becoming,
I think the middleman
agencies becoming. Explain that.
Well, where you used to need an agent, if I wanted a radio show, how hard would it have been for me to have a radio show a decade ago? Like, where would I would have had to call an agent who would have had to find some radio station where somebody had to decide that I was worth their time and their money. And then you get that one shot. And if you don't get the ratings, it's over. Here now, we can go make our own radio show. Soon we'll be able to make, you could do it now, but really high quality TV shows and movies that people will be able to make on their own and distribute on their own, so they don't need this central system. So now if you have a currency that you don't need the government to be a part of, that you may not need to pay taxes on, I don't know. Again, enough about it. Of course people are going to run to that. And it feels like, which is so crazy because it is a movie, like COVID really separated all of us and put us in these isolation chambers on a certain level. And now we're finding ways to make a living from our little caves, whatever they may be. And I find it really scary. And it's liberating and it's scary at the same time.
almost like COVID was a reset in some way, where everything that was sort of like the past way of doing things suddenly vanished and was replaced by delivery services for everything, shopping online. Well, we always shopped online, but it became like that's how you just shop, is you shop online. People
Yeah.
started trading from their telephones, and the average investor, young kids are trading, and it seems like the whole world just sort of
We
like,
accelerated it so much. It probably would be here anyway, but it's like people like my father who would never be using Amazon Prime delivery for groceries and this and that, all of a sudden had to learn this stuff while he was locked in his house. And I do feel like a lot of people I know, they've just become complete homebodies now, and they're doing their business from their house.
they don't leave
They're
their house.
creating. Yeah, I mean, it's I don't know. I think it's a very scary time. I really do. But every generation, Jordan, thinks it's scary, and everyone thinks the kids are about to destroy the
Music
country.
nowadays, the music, and my parents. Let me ask you one last question. Really, I think you really like have this sort of bird's eye view of Hollywood in a very unique way. Like your big hit, your show was about like Hollywood, like the real sort of underpinnings of what was going on. Where do you see, like, you brought this thing, that's why I stopped you for, like, whoa, you said like the agencies have no power. I would love to talk to you more about that, like really what you mean, like in terms of like, does the CAA matter anymore? Does a William Morris matter and Deaver? Like, where do you see Hollywood in 10 years from now? Do you see things on the same path, or do you think it looks radically different?
I think the path is started, and I was really good. If you look back at Entourage, I was really good at predicting a lot of things that would happen in the future. And I'm not sure that I still am, but what I see is basically what I was just saying. No, you don't need, like 10 years ago, I could not exist without an agent. I don't have an agent right now. I've sold 2 shows this year. I saw, one may even be going in London. No agencies were involved with that. I don't need them. There's just, the middleman is a waste of time. The gatekeeper is just someone who's trying to hold on to their power. And I think that individual voices are going to continue to be able to do it in alternate ways. Now, again, is that going to lead to the downfall of society? It's entirely possible. But I think that you now have everybody who's got something to say has a way to go about and try to do that. And if people are interested in it, they can create their movements or their content or whatever it is. So I think the agencies, they're really becoming content providers like everybody else. It's all about content. How can we keep people coming to whatever it is we want, and how can we keep selling them whatever it is we want? So
we'll see, right? It's an interesting time to be alive. And I think one thing is clear, and that is that there is massive opportunity right now for anybody who wants to get rich. I really believe that. One thing I will tell you is I have seen in the last 12 months, and just right now, I've never seen more opportunity, more money around for ideas. I am watching people that I would have never thought could getting rich relatively quickly, meaning, in a matter of years, really building up substantial savings and businesses. This is an amazing time. And I would just urge everybody who's listening to this to really just, if there's one thing you shouldn't do, is use all the things that are stacked against you as a reason why you can't get ahead. Like, everything could be unfair. Everything could suck. The world is against you, but it doesn't matter. The unfairness, yeah, you should work on changing that, but don't let it stop you, I believe, from getting what you want in life today. I think that's the biggest danger. That's my opinion,
I mean, I agree with you. And also at the same time, I agree. Do something good every fucking day. Do something good for somebody. Try to help out, whatever it is, I mean, I'm not being corny, but adopt a dog, go work at a homeless shelter. Do something that actually is good, but don't think you're going to change the whole world, because you're not. And it's really important to kind of focus on what you can actually make a difference in, and whatever that is. And my thing, maybe it's past my time, but I was put on this earth to entertain, and I did that for a while. Some people didn't think it was entertaining, but that's their own fucking problem. So
I think your best stuff is ahead of you, not behind you. And
I hope
that's
so.
a really great guests. I'd put money on it. You know, I would. I believe it. And
well, I do feel good. I feel good. I feel optimistic about my life. I feel less optimistic about the future for my children and the country. I do. But I'm a neurotic Jew, so I'm nervous as shit all the time anyway, you know?
What are the two podcasts? So number one is Victory.
Victory, the podcast with Kevin Dillon and Kevin Connolly, who are on Entourage.
Well,
and then,
love both of them.
Hollywood
Both
Ways.
great guys, amazing, right? They're the best.
Hollywood, yep. And Hollywood Ways with a Z, with Breezy from All American and Empire. And they're both fun, and check them out.
And they're available anywhere available or all toys are sold. No, they're available all anywhere you can find them, right?
Yep. Anywhere podcasts are available.
Just don't go to Instagram to find Doug because he ain't fucking there.
Hollywood Ways and Victory.
Doug said, I ain't
go
leaving, and they banned him.
Actually, check out Fireside, Jordan, which I actually want to talk to you about. But Mark Cuban just started this new app that I'm investing in, and I want to show you it. And when you're in town, maybe we'll get live on it. So
sounds good. All right, brother. Great talking to you. I will come on your podcast as soon as I'll let you know a week before I'm coming in, and I will definitely make it a point to come on either both or one of your podcasts, whichever one you want.
Awesome. All right. I appreciate it.
Take care. Good seeing you.
All right. Be good.